Okay, so the Secretary of Defense just told a Senate committee that we, quote, control the Strait of Hormuz. Then, in the same breath, admitted commercial shipping cannot get through it. That is not control. That's a press release with a podium. Senator Chris Coons asks the obvious follow-up. If you control it, what's the plan to reopen it? Hegseth's answer? Call the question disingenuous. Watch the exchange, then stick around for the breakdown. Hit subscribe so you don't miss it.
If you want to ask a couple questions until he arrives.
Thank you, Senator Murkowski. Mr. Secretary, I'm just going to follow up on the questions I asked in my first round and the questions that had been asked by members of both parties. In my assessment, there was no imminent threat to the United States that justified the president using his Article 2 powers, and there was insufficient preparation to make sure that we had the right troops, the right capability deployed. There used to be a consensus in national security that America should only go to war when there's an imminent threat to our national security, when all other options have been exhausted, and when we have clear objectives and a plan for how it ends. As General Kane testified, the military was given 3 clear goals: sink the Navy, attack and destroy the ballistic missile launchers, and degrade their defense industrial base, and you've accomplished those. But President Trump celebrated regime change after saying that regime change was the real goal. And our NATO allies have delivered. They have allowed overflight. They have allowed projection of force despite not being consulted. You said just a few moments ago, Mr. Secretary, we control the strait. But it's clear that reopening the Strait of Hormuz for commercial traffic eludes us, in no small part because Iran retains a robust stockpile of cheap, lethal Shahed drones, and they are getting help from our adversaries in rebuilding them. What is your plan for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, Mr. Secretary?
I would just note that the majority of your question was highly disingenuous and loaded with suggestions that I very much don't agree with. From the beginning,
please feel free, sir, to pick any one of those
From the
things.
beginning, we've been very clear about the military objectives and
Yes.
the underlying strategic objective, which is preventing Iran from getting a nuclear weapon.
Yes.
Take, for example, the fact that Iranians' conventional Navy, they had aircraft carriers with Shahed drones on them before this started. They had full-on destroyers and battleship capabilities, none of which they have anymore. And
did the Iranian Navy have aircraft carriers?
The Iranian Navy had 3 drone aircraft carriers. The Iranian Navy had 11
launch
submarines.
Platforms for drones, sure.
They had 11 submarines.
And you've sunk all of the regular Navy. Great, good.
They retain fast boat capabilities, which they've always had. We understand that, which we can control for and will. We've degraded almost completely their defense industrial base capabilities. The idea that they control anything, you can terrorize something, you can hold it at issue with piracy, as I've talked about at the Pentagon podium time and time again.
Correct.
That doesn't mean you control it. We control what goes in and out, and we control whether or not we have to restart conflict. The president does as well.
Mr.
So
Secretary,
we're the ones that will manage where this goes in the future, and they have very limited ability to set the tempo or respond to it, and that gives the president a lot of options to ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon.
The connection between their ability to close the Strait of Hormuz using fast boats and Shahed drones and our strategic goal, shared broadly, to prevent them from ever having a usable nuclear weapon is utterly unclear to me. And my question was, what's the plan for reopening the Strait of Hormuz to commercial traffic, given
shared broadly
skyrocketing
but never
prices?
executed. Shared broadly but never executed because previous administration didn't have the willingness to actually do what it would take. And when Iran was at its weakest moments following the 12-day war, but still wanted the pursuit of a nuclear capability, President Trump made the courageous decision to go at their conventional umbrella and shield, which they were using to protect their nuclear program, which we knew came with threats and branches and sequels.
My concern, Mr. Secretary, is that you've achieved a series of tactical successes, but are on the verge of a strategic loss, because we are now negotiating.
I just think it's so foolish. Here we are in a committee in the United States Senate, 74 days in, and you're talking about strategic loss. We have the ability to defeat a 47-year threat of a pursuit of a nuclear weapon. We have more leverage than we've ever had. We've had incredible battlefield successes, and you're talking about a strategic loss, cloaked in disingenuous questions.
Mr. Secretary,
this is how you undercut efforts that could otherwise and are otherwise being very effective.
I am not your enemy, sir. I am not your adversary. I share your goal of preventing Iran from ever having a usable nuclear weapon. To finish my sentence, control of the Strait of Hormuz, the ability to degrade our partners and allies' gas and oil production capabilities through cheap drones, the ability to harass and harry commercial shipping remains in Iran's hands. And their demands are that we recognize sovereignty for them over the Strait of Hormuz, which I believe our president's rejected, you've rejected, I reject. But my question remains, how do we reopen the Strait of Hormuz to commercial shipping? If we control it, how do we reopen it? And your average American is seeing this at the gas pump every single day as the cost of gas continues to rise.
Senator Coons, I know that your question has not yet been responded to.
And it deserves an answer.
It does
But I also
deserve
understand
an
I'm
answer.
delaying my colleagues. But that's the question that deserves an answer, Mr. Secretary.
We do have.
All right, so let's talk about what just happened. Because if that exchange made your eye twitch a little, you're not crazy. You just watched the sitting Secretary of Defense get asked a basic question about national security strategy and respond by attacking the senator for asking it. That's the playbook now. Don't answer the question, attack the question. Call it disingenuous and move on like nothing happened. And this is exactly the illusion of control the administration keeps selling you. Hegseth touts the sinkings. 3 drone carriers, 11 submarines. Sure, great, fine. But none of that answers the actual question. The Strait of Hormuz is still effectively closed to commercial shipping. Iran still holds the economic chokehold. The Pentagon won't say how we get it back open. So what exactly are we controlling here? Here's the part that should really make every taxpayer sit up. Coons literally lays out the 3 goals the military was given. Sink the Navy, destroy the missile launchers, degrade the defense industrial base. Done, done, and done. Tactical W. Cool. But then Trump goes on TV and celebrates regime change, which was, by the way, not on the list. That wasn't the mission. That was the slogan. And meanwhile, the actual thing that affects regular Americans, the price at the pump, the global shipping lanes, what Iran is still doing right now with cheap drones built with help from our adversaries, that just gets brushed off as a disingenuous question. And this is the part nobody at the Pentagon really wants to admit. You can win every tactical engagement and still lose the strategic war. Iran's expensive navy? Gone. But their cheap weapons, the Shahed drones, the fast boats, the asymmetric stuff, that's the playbook they've actually been using this entire time. And it's still working. They're still harassing commercial shipping. They're still holding 20% of the world's oil flow hostage. The blockade is the weapon, and we have, apparently, no plan for it. And then we get to the moment that really gives the whole game away. Coons asks the question for a 3rd time. How do we reopen the strait? And Hegseth, instead of answering, says the senator is being foolish, calls the question disingenuous. Again, Coons literally has to say out loud, on the Senate floor, to a sitting cabinet member, I am not your adversary, sir. Let that sink in for a second. That is how broken congressional oversight has actually gotten in this administration. And let's be crystal clear about what this actually is. This is a Senate Appropriations Committee. They literally hold the money. That is their job in the Constitution. Article 1. So when the Secretary of Defense calls a senator's question disingenuous, instead of just answering it, he's not just being rude. He is telling a co-equal branch of government to sit down and shut up. That is the brick wall. That is the dysfunction. And it is getting worse, not better. And here's the kicker that almost nobody is talking about. Even the Republican chair acknowledged on the record that Coons asked a fair question that, quote, deserved an answer. Even she couldn't pretend Hegseth had given one. When the chair of your own party has to bail you out, you didn't win the exchange. You lost it on tape. So here's the line for the next time someone tells you the Iran war was some big win. Hegseth told the United States Senate, under oath, that we control the Strait of Hormuz, while admitting commercial shipping cannot get through it. That is not control. That is hostage taking with extra steps. And the people paying the bill for it are Americans every single day at the gas pump. And let's not forget who actually foots the bill for all of this. 20% of the world's oil flows through the Strait of Hormuz. 20%. When that flow gets squeezed, the price hits your tank. Not the Pentagon's, not Hegseth's, yours. They get to debate the definition of strategic loss on cable news. You get to pay $4 a gallon to drive to work. That is the actual scoreboard of this war. Because at the end of the day, this hearing wasn't really about Iran. It was about whether anyone in this administration is willing to answer a basic question from a co-equal branch of government. The answer, on camera, under oath, in front of the United States Senate, was no, they are not. Full stop. If this breakdown helped you see what's actually going on, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs the full picture. I'll see you in the next one.